Welcome back to True Crime Documentary YouTube channel. In the world of aviation, where one decision can change the course of lives, there are few industries as unforgiving as this one. The cockpit is a world where trust is not just a virtue, it's a matter of life and death. Captain Amelia Lane, one of the most respected pilots in the airline industry, had learned early in her career that the road to success was not an easy one, especially for a woman in a profession dominated by men. She had spent years battling to earn her place in the skies, but it wasn't just the technical challenges that made her journey difficult. There were battles fought in the shadows, within boardrooms, and behind closed doors, where decisions were made that impacted not just careers, but also personal lives. At 42, Amelia had earned her position as captain of the airline's flagship aircraft, the Boeing 777, but there were things about her life that few knew. Among those secrets was an affair with Jonas Holm, a powerful businessman with deep connections in Finland's elite circles. Their relationship, though passionate and thrilling, was one that had to remain hidden, for the consequences of exposure would be devastating, not just for Amelia, but for the airline as well. Despite the challenges, Amelia believed she had kept her secret under wraps. However, someone was about to discover it, someone who, like her, knew the importance of maintaining control and the value of trust, her co-pilot, Jason Grant. Captain Amelia Lane was walking through the bustling terminal of Helsinki International Airport, her sharp navy uniform hugging her frame as the sun cast a warm glow through the glass windows. As she passed through the crowds, the captain's insignia on her shoulders gleamed with pride, a symbol of everything she had worked for in an industry that rarely gave women a chance to shine. Amelia was a woman who had fought for every inch of her success, earning the respect of her colleagues, from senior pilots to ground crew, despite the hurdles placed in her path. She had earned her place in the cockpit and had commanded it with authority, her cool-headed demeanor allowing her to rise above the challenges. Today, she was preparing for yet another long flight, a routine journey from Helsinki to Moscow, one of the many she had completed over the years. It should have been like any other, but it wasn't. There was a feeling in the air, an unease that gnawed at the back of her mind. Her eyes briefly flickered to the phone resting on the dashboard. A text message had come in. She didn't need to check it to know who it was from. It was Jonas Holm, reminding her of their dinner plans for the following evening. The simple message sent a ripple of tension through her. Her heart skipped, and she quickly glanced over to the left to ensure Jason Grant, her co-pilot, hadn't noticed. Jason, always professional, was focused on preparing for the flight. His sharp, analytical mind had earned him a reputation as a man who did everything by the book, and Amelia both admired and dreaded this about him. Jason had joined the airline only 5 years ago, yet at just 31, he was already considered one of the rising stars within the company. His unwavering integrity, his no-nonsense attitude, and his ability to make calculated decisions had made him a standout co-pilot. But his principles also made him a potential threat to Amelia's carefully constructed world. As the plane taxied for takeoff, the hours ahead should have been routine, but in the pit of her stomach, Amelia could feel a storm brewing. She knew that Jason had a way of noticing things. He had an uncanny ability to read situations, to observe the smallest details, and more often than not, he noticed things others missed. As they ascended into the skies, the hum of the engines filled the cockpit, providing a brief moment of calm. Amelia and Jason slipped into their usual rhythm, exchanging flight data and weather patterns, but her thoughts kept drifting back to the message on her phone, to Jonas, and the secret she was desperately trying to keep hidden. Amelia had been careful. Her affair with Jonas had always been discreet. The meetings, the stolen moments during layovers, and the whispered phone calls, all carefully planned to avoid suspicion. She had met Jonas at a diplomatic summit hosted by the airline, where she was invited as a representative of the airline's progressive image. Their first encounter had been casual, a brief conversation over cocktails, but what started as an innocent flirtation soon evolved into something more. It wasn't just about the attraction, it was the emotional escape Jonas provided, a brief reprieve from the high-pressure world of aviation. Their relationship remained hidden from everyone, even from her colleagues, but Jason had an eye for detail, and Amelia knew that sooner or later he would notice something. He was always the one who did things by the book, who followed the rules and ensured that everything was above board. Where Amelia had learned to bend those same rules, Jason's adherence to them was almost obsessive. It wasn't that Amelia didn't value integrity, it was simply that, over the years, she had learned that survival in this industry often required compromise. As they made their way through the flight, Jason noticed the phone buzzing again. This time, he couldn't ignore the name on the screen. "Jonas home?" he remarked, his tone casual but laced with curiosity. Amelia's heart skipped a beat, but she quickly regained her composure. "Yes, he's a close business associate," she replied smoothly. Jason didn't press further, but the tension between them lingered in the air like an unseen force. Jason's curiosity did not subside. He had always suspected something was off, and now he had proof. Later that night, when the crew was settled in their hotel, Jason decided to take matters into his own hands. He accessed the encrypted airline system to review their files. What he found was shocking. In addition to the usual flight schedules and crew reports, there were personal messages exchanged between Amelia and Jonas. The content of the messages was not explicitly romantic, but the implication was undeniable. This was no longer a simple professional relationship. It was personal, and it was dangerous. Jason felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. The airline had strict policies about personal relationships that could jeopardize its reputation, particularly with someone as influential as Jonas. He wrestled with his conscience for a moment before deciding that it was his duty to report what he had discovered. He filed an anonymous report to the airline's ethics board, outlining the risks posed by Amelia's affair and the potential fallout. It was not something he wanted to do, but he believed he was doing the right thing. The weeks that followed were a blur of meetings and phone calls as the airline launched an internal investigation. Amelia, who had once been untouchable, now found herself in the midst of a storm that threatened to tear everything apart. The airline was discreet, but the whispers among her colleagues were loud enough for her to hear. Amelia had spent years earning her place in the cockpit, and now it was all unraveling. She didn't need to guess who had exposed her secret. Jason's demeanor during their last flight, the way he avoided her gaze, the cool professionalism, everything pointed to him. Amelia felt the sharp sting of betrayal. Jason had not only jeopardized her career, he had exposed a side of her that she had worked so hard to keep hidden. But Amelia was no stranger to adversity. She had fought for everything she had, and she wasn't about to let Jason destroy her without a fight. She began to plan her revenge, to make him pay for his actions. The next time they flew together, things would be different. Amelia would make sure of it. As the days went by, Amelia carefully reconstructed her professional relationship with Jason. She offered him polite greetings during their pre-flight briefings, suggesting they grab coffee during layovers and share stories from their early days in aviation. She was careful to present herself as a mentor figure, someone who could guide him, but beneath the surface, her mind was already racing with the plan she had set in motion. The next layover brought them to Moscow, and once again, they would dine together. This time, however, there would be no pleasantries. Amelia's plan was already in motion, and Jason, blissfully unaware, had no idea what was coming. As they dined at a local restaurant, Amelia played her part to perfection. She smiled, laughed, and listened to Jason, but every moment was carefully calculated. The evening was simple, calm, and ordinary, until the moment came. When the waiter brought their food, Amelia discreetly slipped poison into Jason's dish, using her fork to stir it subtly, ensuring it was undetected. Jason, oblivious to the danger, continued eating. Amelia's heart raced as she watched him, but she kept her expression neutral. By the time they returned to the hotel, Jason was beginning to feel the first signs of nausea. Amelia, ever the professional, feigned concern and accompanied him to the hospital. The poisoning took its toll over the next few days, but Jason remained unaware of the true cause. He was treated for food poisoning, and though his condition slowly improved, he was left weakened and disoriented. Amelia played her role perfectly, offering support and pretending to be a caring colleague. But inside, she was cold and satisfied. She had taken control of the situation, and Jason had no idea that he had just become the pawn in her game. As Jason recovered, a nagging suspicion began to grow in the back of his mind. The kindness, the sudden warmth from Amelia, it all seemed so calculated. But the poison had done its job, and Jason was too weak to put the pieces together immediately. It wasn't until weeks later that he started to connect the dots. The inconsistencies in Amelia's story, her sudden change in behavior, and the questions he had about the timing of his illness, everything pointed to one conclusion: Amelia had orchestrated the poisoning. Jason's investigation into Amelia's actions was methodical. He gathered evidence, pieced together timelines, and questioned colleagues. It was only when he intercepted a conversation between two operatives from the Crimson Veil, a shadowy group associated with sabotage, that he found the final piece of the puzzle. The operatives mentioned a name, Falcon. Jason remembered hearing Amelia use that name in passing and realized it was the alias she had used to set up the poisoning. The truth hit him like a ton of bricks. Amelia had used her connections with the Crimson Veil to orchestrate her revenge. She had manipulated him, poisoned him, and used her influence to ruin his career. Now, armed with the evidence, Jason was ready to confront her. As they flew over the darkened skies, Jason knew it was time. "We need to talk," he said, his voice low and firm. Amelia glanced at him, sensing the tension in his words. He turned to face her. "I know what you did. I know about the Crimson Veil. I know you poisoned me." Amelia's response was measured. "What are you going to do about it?" she asked coldly. Jason's fists clenched. "I'll make sure everyone knows what you've done," he vowed. The investigation that followed was swift. The evidence was undeniable, and Amelia's connections to the Crimson Veil were confirmed. She was arrested, and her career came crashing down. The media had a field day with the story, and Amelia's name became synonymous with betrayal and scandal. For Jason, the aftermath was bittersweet. He had won, but the emotional toll of everything he had endured weighed heavily on him. The trust he had once placed in Amelia was shattered, and the scars of her actions remained. He turned his pain into purpose, working with organizations to raise awareness about food poisoning and advocate for safer practices in aviation. As for Amelia, she faced the consequences of her actions. In the solitude of her prison cell, she began to reflect on the choices that had led her there. Her need for control, her inability to let go of past wrongs, and her thirst for revenge had destroyed everything she had built. In the end, both Jason and Amelia learned that betrayal cuts both ways. One is left with scars, the other with a sense of emptiness. But perhaps, in time, both could find a way to heal and move forward. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Be sure to check out our other videos for more captivating stories. Take care, and we'll see you in the next one.